Welcome, everybody. I'm Michael Kerman with Leading Edge Seminars in Toronto. And in partnership with Mindfulness Every Day, another Toronto organization which provides mindfulness programs for students, parents, educators, and helping professionals, I'm very happy to welcome you to this 1 hour lunch with Eline Snel. Thanks for taking the time on a Saturday. I know this is a difficult period of time for many people. But taking the time to be with us, I'm hoping will be very useful, interesting, and even enjoyable. And we're all hoping for a better 2021. Today, you'll have a chance to meet Eline Snel, have a chance to ask questions. And in 2 weeks from today, she'll be back for a 3 hour webinar so we can all delve deeper into the frog approach, which we'll be talking more about, of course, today. A few things, logistics things. First, our producer and hostess with the mostest is Emily Porter, who you may see on the screen. Emily will be here to be kind of your helper and Eline's helper on the chat box. So if you're either having technical problems or you want to ask questions when it comes to that time, just put a note into the chat box and Emily will bring you to the screen. Now, of course, we may not have time for everything, but also you should know that today's session is being recorded. You will receive a link for today's session, probably later today. And on it will be some information about the January 23rd program with a discount code for those who are watching this today, and also information from a local bookstore called Caversham Booksellers, local in Toronto, and they'll provide some information how you can get her book and what they're offering for you. Okay, that's kind of the background you need to know. So first, I'd like to introduce Eline. Now, Eline Snel is a therapist and certified MBSR trainer, and she runs the International Academy for Mindful Teaching in Leusden, the Netherlands. And she's been developing and teaching mindfulness for over 20 years, and she trains professionals to teach mindfulness techniques to children, adolescents, and increasingly parents and teachers. She's written several books. This book, which I'll show you in my hand, has sold over 1 million copies, Sitting Still Like a Frog. She's also written another book about breathing through mindfulness for parents and teenagers, and a workbook. Sitting Like a Frog has been sold in 39 countries, has been translated into different languages, as is her website translated into 6 languages. The frog method has been scientifically researched, and there have been different positive pilot studies showing the positive influence it has on well-being, behavior, mood swings, learning processes, fear of failure, and other executive programs. Now, her programs have been used in many primary schools, private practices, hospitals, mental health institutions all around the world. So, Eline, it's 6 in the evening in the Netherlands on a Saturday night, although none of us are going out on a Saturday night. Thank you very much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So I have a few questions and that other people may have well. So first, I'd like to know a little bit about your childhood and your parents and how you dealt with anxiety as a parent, as a child, and how your parents would have felt about mindfulness.
Well, so you're asking me about my own childhood.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was, I think, a very happy child. And although my childhood wasn't, per definition, very happy because my parents divorced several times from each other. So I think there was no kid in my class that was going through this. But in a way, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids. So 1 sister and 2 brothers. And my father was a businessman, and my mother was a teacher. And her whole family, her grandfather and his grandfather were teachers too. So I'm coming from a teaching family. And I think this is in my DNA in a way. But they didn't do anything with mindfulness. And so I developed mindfulness for myself in my teenage years, completely on myself. They didn't support me or give me books or whatever. So I think it came out of myself.
And how did you first hear about mindfulness?
I didn't hear, I think, about mindfulness, but when I was 10 years old, I was on winter sport with my mother. And in the first 5 minutes of the holidays, I broke my leg in two pieces. So I had to go to the hospital, and I needed a surgery. And it was in Germany. I didn't speak German at all, so I was a little bit frightened, and I felt scared for the operation and the anesthesia. So at the opposite of my bed where I was laying in, there was a little picture of a Minnie Mouse, this little creature. And when I looked at that picture, my rumination started to decrease, and my feelings changed. And this was my first experience. I remember it as yesterday, that I thought, this is strange. When I look at something happy and something nice, my feelings change about my fears for surgery. So that was the first situation that I realized that I was not my feelings and I was not my thoughts. And I think that was the very first start of going into this area of wanting to know more about the working of the mind.
Now, I know you decided to help your daughter who was having issues with attention deficit disorder. And I also know that you were very influenced by mindfulness-based stress reduction, whose founder, John Kabat-Zinn, wrote the introduction to your book. Which came first?
Oh, yes. Well, my daughter, she is now 33 and had children of her own. At that time, she had a lot of difficulties in schools, and the teacher said to her, "And please just concentrate on your work. It makes things so much easier." And then she came home and said, "Well, they say to me that I have to concentrate, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to do it. And they don't tell me. So you have to tell me. What is this concentration, and how can I learn to concentrate?" So this was the first start for me to think about how can I teach children what concentration is and how they can learn to stabilize it and to use it as a kind of pocket flashlight on things inside and outside themselves. So this was also a very interesting part. So this is, well, I think 28 years ago now. So that was first.
Now, you've said that mindful awareness is a natural state for children. So tell us about your thinking of it being a natural state.
Yes, I think it's a natural gift of any human being, because when you first, kids live in this moment. They don't have a clock, they don't have an agenda, they don't think about the future, they don't think about the past. Kids live very much in this moment. Everyone who has young children can admit this, that they just do what they have to do now, and when they play, they fully are in their play. They focus. They have little blocks. Even babies have little blocks in there, or soft toys in their hands, and they look at it for minutes sometimes, and then they hear it, they feel it. So kids use their senses very, very much in the real time, in the reality, in this moment. So this is what we all have lost as adults. And this loss begins when they have to achieve, and when they have to do all kinds of things, and when they are ranked before or after other kids. Then they lose this very natural gift of being in this moment and connected with themselves.
So basically, you're trying to help children regain something that was lost. And I know you talked about the benefits of mindfulness. So I think it would be interesting for everyone watching today, a two-part question about the benefits of mindfulness for children. Some of what you saw initially when you started working with schools, working with children, and what you've learned since then, additional benefits or anything about the benefits that changed your mind about the benefits.
Yes, certainly there were several things that changed my mind about the benefits, because in all kind of books we can mention some benefits that kids can better regulate their emotions, they come in a better balance, they are more connected with their body, and this increasing part of self-compassion is an important, very important part of the benefits of mindfulness. But what I realized is that there are a lot of things that are not measured at all. I remember a girl who was suffering a lot from what is it called? Neurological attacks. So she was suffering from this disease. I cannot come up the name in English. Epileptic insults, yes. And these epileptic insults were not neurological. They came from the stress she was suffering because her parents were divorced. And she joined a class with the teacher who did her first mindfulness class in the frog method. And they came with a lesson about feelings, that you can befriend with your feelings and that you can come closer to your feelings and start with allowing them, like you would allow your best friend to have an angry feeling or a sad feeling. And from that lesson on, she didn't suffered anymore from any epileptic insult afterwards. So this is something that is never measured, but there are a lot of kids with all kinds of diseases, for example, obstipation or sleeplessness or headaches or losing hair with teenagers sometimes. And those benefits are so very special, and I can mention hundreds of them. So that was what I learned a lot from doing all these lessons with all the different age groups, that every child learns from a mindfulness 8-week program what he or she needs. It's a very other way of learning, complete otherwise than learning math or learning a language. They learn what they need, what they feel, their inner need. And this is, well, almost magical, I think.
So tell us about the 8-week program and some of the highlights and how it starts and how it moves forward.
Yes, well, what I can tell about the program, it's a structured program. It's completely written out and teacher-proof. And it's the duration is 8 weeks of 30-40 minutes once a week, and every day 10 minutes when you are your own class teacher. And otherwise, when there's coming a teacher from outside, it's half an hour till 40 minutes on the primary school once a week. And in the secondary schools, it's 1 hour every week with some homework or use an app, a mindfulness app. And the content is divided into 3 main blocks, you could say, of every block is 2 lessons. And the first block is that we want to teach children something about observing. What is observing and how can you learn how to concentrate? So we teach them something about that everybody has a flashlight, a pocket light, and that you can put this inner pocket light on things outside yourself and inside your feelings, your thoughts, your body signals. And we continue this in the second lesson to be more aware of their body. Because kids from 6, 7 are living only in their heads already. It's very sad that they lose the contact with living in their bodies. They are like little professors who only need to live their lives from their heads. And then we are going slowly over to give them back the sense of using their senses. What is the sense of using your senses? This is an interesting part. And we do the famous exercise with the raisin, for example. And young kids are excellent in it, but teenagers don't know how to do it anymore. They lose completely this way of using they can only think about what they sense. And then we have a key lesson, and this is one of the most important lessons, I think, and this is about patience, trust, and letting go. So we teach children that they can trust on changes, that nothing stays the same. Because in the mind of kids, they think often about absolute terms. It will always be like this. When my parents are divorced, I will always be miserable about this or never be happy again. So what we teach them is that everything is going to change. And this is very, very much a comfort for them. Then the middle part is also about getting to know how to deal with difficult feelings and the rumination factory. And then the last part of the 8 lessons is about compassion and self-compassion. This is in a very short and high tempo, the content of the lessons. Yeah.
I'm sure, and I'm sure it's very complex. So I'd like to follow up with you talking about some of the differences between children, say 4 to 8, 9 to 12, and teenagers. And I know we have a lot of parents and teachers watching today. Can you tell us just some of the highlights what you think they should be aware of about the differences between those 3 age groups and helping them maybe begin a mindfulness practice?
Yes, well, it's I can tell, of course, something about the differences. When you have young kids at home until 6, you are yourself really the role model. Children learn from you what they see and not what they hear from you. So they imitate you. So when you have your calm and when you eat in a mindful way and when you can handle your own emotions, or you can say, well, I feel very stressed now, I need a little bit time out, and then I come back to you. This is a wonderful way of treating young kids when you are yourself not calm at all at that moment. So young children learn from you to imitate you. So you're really a role model. When they are 8, 9, 10, and a little bit older, so the last part of the primary school, you can start to do with them little mindfulness exercises. One of the famous exercises from the Sitting Still Like a Frog book is, for example, the spaghetti test. This is a very easy to do movement exercise where they learn the first parts of what is relaxation. When my daughter had that age, I often said to her, and because she had this ADHD problem, and calm down. And she said to me, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what you mean by saying calm down. So then at that moment, I started some exercises with her so that she realized what calming down meant. And she had to do it and to feel it. So this is what you can do with young children. And also the sleep well meditation is very favorite with a lot of kids. And you can do it together with your children because you bring them to bed anyway. So it costs you not much time. And when you do this together with your children, you might feel how tired you are yourself. And sometimes parents fall asleep together with their children in the bed of the children and wake up, of course, again after 10 minutes or so, or after half an hour. And with teenagers, they often say, like my children did, talk to my hand and not to my face. So with other words, don't interfere with me. So for them, there are different apps. I also developed a sitting still app in English. It's called Sitting Still. So a lot of teenagers use it, but they need to use it themselves. And the parents don't interfere too much unless they ask you for something. And also, well, sitting at the kitchen table, and when they come up with some questions, that's a perfect moment to, well, to have a calm discussion with your teenager about life issues, or walking with the dog, or that kind of things. And then be completely with your attention with what they are saying or what they are showing. And this is the difficult part, because we as parents, and I remember this from my own period when I was a young parent. I'm now 67 almost, so I'm a grandmother. But that I had all those ideas about what I thought that they were thinking. And the first mindfulness practice, without maybe never meditating before, is to really make the choice to hear them, to hear what they really say, and not what you think that they think. So this is very short answer. Maybe it's of a little bit of a help for you, but yes, there are differences. Yes.
I think today's program will have a lot of little answers because we're trying to give a lot of information and introduce you in these ideas. So I have another question about cautions or contraindications, because we started off offering programs about mindfulness in clinical practice for therapists about 15 years ago, when it was relatively new and coming into the field of psychotherapy and mental health. And then I learned about someone who's doing a lot of research and was looking at the contraindications of cautiousness, because there's always a danger of everyone saying, yes, we'll do this with everyone, it works, it's perfect, and it may not be that. And I wonder if there are any children who may not benefit or need additional help, or we need that caution with.
Yes, that's a very interesting question. And because we are teaching now in all kind of different situations, in hospitals, in schools, in private practice of psychiatrists and psychologists, and even in Colombia in a trauma center, and with kids with who are sexual abused and suffering from that, we never experienced below 12 or below 14, around that there is a contraindication for kids to join an 8-week program. The thing I think is the most important is that we need qualified mindfulness trainers, and also mindfulness trainers who stay with their competence, with their own field of experience and the way they are in their jobs. So when we work with teenagers, for example, with borderline problems, they have to go, those kids, to a psychiatrist who is working for a longer time with meditation, is well qualified to work with kids with borderline. So the first research what has been done in my method for kids with autism and ADHD worked very well. So the outcome was very good, and you can find it back on the website, the outcome of this research. It was in 2012, and there were no adaptations needed for this group of kids with ADHD and autism, except that we needed trainers who were familiar with working with kids with ADHD and autism, so that they could realize when kids were giving expression and show some behavior that they could recognize. So I think the problem is more that we need to say, well, we have a saying in Holland, and it's that shoemaker stay with making shoes. So this is what we do with our mindfulness classes also. And what we have experienced is that kids with severe ADHD can lose their diagnosis after 2 or 3 times doing the same course. So they need some longer time to come in the center of their calmness, and also to recognize and be aware of their tendency to move all the time, because they don't realize that they are moving all the time. So this is about awareness. This is the core, the heart of awareness, and they need some more time.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. I have many more, but I want to open it up. The first question is, your program now is around the world. I know in Asia you teach, in other places. What do you notice about differences in how it's received, either by educators, parents, or children in different places?
Well, what we noticed, I'm indeed teaching all over the world in very different cultures. And what we noticed is that this training is universal. Like mindfulness for adults is universal. So when we teach children, I was the first time, I think, in 2014 or 2013 in Hong Kong. So we taught a lot of Chinese teachers and Chinese kids also. And it was very much the same as teaching kids in Latin America or in Holland. And sometimes, well, we talk a little bit more. For example, in Asia, the body is not so very much, kids don't draw their bodies, for example. And in Holland, that's no problem at all. When we ask them to draw their own body, they will do this. So very slight differences, but not the main themes. No, it's very universal. Okay. And kids are very thirsty and hungry. This was what I was amazed of when I did my first classes in 2008 and volunteered in different schools to make the program. Well, they asked, when do you come back, and can we go on? We want to come on it. We want, like you can come on rugby or hockey. They want to go on mindfulness. This was very funny, yes.
Well, one thing I haven't said, I'm talking about mindfulness and seriousness. It's very light and fun and enjoyable. You're not going to bring kids or really anyone into anything like this unless you make it fun and enjoyable. So my last question is about today and the pandemic, because when John Kabat-Zinn wrote the introduction to your book published in 2013, he said, this is timely because of the harmful effects of stress on the developing brain. And I'm wondering your view now about the pandemic and your thoughts about helping parents or teachers or children right now.
Yes. Well, what we always say to a lot of parents and to a lot of teachers, that learning how to practice mindfulness in this stressful times we are all in now, it asks from you a lot of dedication and also a choice, a very clear choice to use 10 minutes of your time you might not have so much because your children are at home, you have a full-time job to do. But when you take 5 or 10 minutes time to practice some of the child meditations together with your children, or when you're alone, a lot of adults say, well, I like the children meditations very much because they are very short and I can understand what they mean to me. Give yourself a break. This is one. Give yourself some quality time in the evening, maybe, or early in the morning to start with the child meditation. And give yourself a lot of self-compassion, because for no one this period is easy. So there are some beautiful sentences of Christine Neff, who wrote beautiful books about self-compassion. And when we are going through a stressful situation, the first sentence she always said with her autistic son, this is stressful. So acknowledgement of the stressful situation. This is stressful. Just accept that we are going through stressful times. The second thing we can mean to ourselves is we are not alone. So make it broader than you alone. We are with the whole world in the same situation. So this is common humanity. And the third message is, what do I need to calm down? Sometimes this is just a cup of tea and drink it with your full consciousness. Sometimes it's just realize that you need to phone a friend or write things down. Sometimes only 5 minutes, sit on your couch and do nothing. What do I need to calm myself down? So this is what I do all the time when I feel these stressful moments, who are in my house also. And it helps me also very much always to use these 3 sentences.
And as you suggested, we will conclude today with a meditation you will lead.
Yes.
And that should be good. We're going to open up for questions now. And please put your questions in the chat box, and Emily will call you to the screen. And I would like to call our partner in this, Heidi Bornstein from Mindfulness Every Day in Toronto, to ask the next question. Heidi, welcome to the screen. And Emily, will you on there? You go, you're unmuted.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Eline. I really enjoyed listening to you speak, and it really seems like we were hatched out of the same MBSR pod, mindfulness pod. So we spend a lot of our efforts are in bringing mindfulness to education and to the people that are connected to students. And for educators who wish to bring mindfulness to their students, what would be a key message for them to try to introduce it to the kids, understanding that it has to change for the different age groups?
Mm-hmm. If I understand you clear, is this a question about a message for teachers who are not trained in mindfulness at all? Or?
Well, that could be the good segue into maybe they could get trained in mindfulness before trying this, but yeah, for both maybe.
Yes, well, like when we want to be a piano player teacher, when we want to teach children how to play the piano, we at least have to play some parts on the piano ourselves. So this is with mindfulness the same. Mindfulness is not something you can just easy adapt to your own life if you never have practiced it. But so this is one part of the answer. that you need some practice. And it starts, all of our teachers, we are going to train in the frog method. They need to have an 8-week mindfulness program going through themselves, so that they know how it feels to do homework and don't like to do homework, or well, that kind of things, and that they are used to practice at least half an hour a day, and later maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes. So this is one part. But there are some possibilities when you are not in a situation that you can be trained, and then you can use the book, for example. I'm not advertising my book, but well, there are meditations in it which you can easily do with putting the audio on with the whole class. And when kids are used doing short meditations with the whole class, the learning atmosphere will change already. When you do it twice a week or 3 times a week and do some movement exercises or some standing up yoga in your class. And what helps a lot of teachers, and you can introduce it, it might be strange a little bit at the beginning when you've never done this before, but to put now and then 10 or 15 minutes silence in the class. Just don't talk and do your work in silence, or use your lunch in silence. And kids love it to don't need to talk and eat in the same time, which is difficult to doing 2 things in the same time. Because partly one of the stressful things for kids nowadays is that there is a digital board in the class with all kind of information on it all the time. Then there are kids running through the corridors. Then someone is teaching. Then there is loud speaking around you. It's never silent in a school. I've been in a lot of schools, and this continuing noise of all kind of things is very stressful for kids. So when you introduce 10 or 15 minutes just silence, you need a little bit courage for this to introduce it, but kids love it, and you will love it too, I think. So keep me posted about this experiment. Just try it out.
Thank you, Eline. That's perfect.
Thank you. So let's see who we have. So we've had a couple of questions come in about the use of your program with children who have anxiety. Can you speak a little to that?
Yes, well, kids are suffering a lot from anxiety, certainly in this time. But maybe the person who is asking this question can make it a little bit more specific. What is she asking exactly? Because anxiety is a very broad.
So one question was, can we, can a parent do your program with a child with anxiety who's about the age of 8? And then we also had another question about a 12-year-old with ADHD and anxiety, and sometimes he feels like he's being talked down to in therapeutic approaches that are geared towards younger children, but isn't as inclined to do a program independently like a teenager.
Yes, well, it depends very much how the teenager responds on meditation, for example, and respond on the parent who is giving him with the best meanings advice, because some teenagers take advice from a coach or a psychologist, but not specific from their parents. But a lot of teenagers love to use in their own way, in their own time, a specific meditation dealing with difficult feelings, for example. And sometimes they can find an online mindfulness coach, which can be of enormous help. We did it a lot of times. So give personal coaching to my daughter also did it, personal coaching online, so they don't need to come. They can choose their own time. Online coaching for teenagers, mindful coaching can be very helpful. And for kids under the age of 12, it could be very helpful to use with them, together with them, use the audio, dealing with difficult feelings, for example, or just do the sleep well meditation every evening with them, because this will give a kind of calm and rest to go to sleep. And when you go to sleep and in a very calm way, it will influence the way you stand up in the morning. So this is a very, easy going way that everybody can use. Yeah.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Susan. Susan, do you want to unmute? There we go.
Yes. I'm curious to know, how does this work if you're like in a virtual classroom? Because certainly many schools have virtual classrooms nowadays in the United States. And can you use an 8-week program in a virtual classroom?
Yes. Well, we don't like to do this because mindfulness is very much also, teaching mindfulness is very much also about feeling the kids, feeling what's going on when a kid is not speaking up directly, but you can see in a class what's happening. So we need really this eye and heart contact with the kids. So we don't advise to do it. But sometimes there are teachers who are teaching for more than 8 years in their own school for a long time. They know their kids from when they were 5 and came into the school. And they sometimes go on with this practice because they practice for years my method. And then it can be of a very good support and help. And this is the same for teenagers. So when they know the kids very well, when they are teaching for years this mindfulness, and they know the kids also in teaching the mindfulness classes themselves, then it will be not so much of a problem. Then it can be a huge support for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question that was emailed in was asking if you have any suggestions for self-help literature for parents after a separation or a divorce, or self-help for adult children whose parents divorced long ago in their childhoods.
Yes. Well, me, myself, I'm a grandmother from divorced parents in my youth. But I have the idea that mindfulness is so much universal and so much of a support for every life situation that we don't need, and this is my opinion, that we don't need special books for that. When you learn how to deal with difficult feelings, when you know how to deal with feelings of anger against your parents maybe, or feelings in another way, you just need to learn how to deal with difficult feelings. And this is in the programs of the mindfulness, the normal mindfulness programs. You learn how to be a little bit more mild to your own feelings, and how to learn to teach yourself something about self-compassion and compassion for others, also for the difficulties that might have arisen in your life after the divorce of your parents. So my idea is that every mindfulness course, at this moment, one of my former students, she was an adult in one of my MBSR classes, and I ask every time at the end of the MBSR course to bring a symbol of the what mindfulness meant to them, this specific 8-week course. And I remember one woman, she lost her mother when she was young, very young, she was 7. And the symbols he brought after the mindfulness class in the 8th lesson was a little photograph of her mother and her. And she was carried in the arms of her mother who died 7 years later. And she said, the feeling I can only express what this mindfulness, the normal mindfulness course meant to me, is that I felt in the way carried by myself, like my mother used to do. So this is maybe what I can tell about this, yes.
So we have one question from Dawn coming up, but before that, we've had a number of questions about people wanting to know how to access the 8-week course and the Sleep Well Bedtime meditation.
Can you please repeat the question?
So you've mentioned an 8-week course and you've mentioned a Sleep Well Bedtime meditation. How can people access those trainings or those meditations?
Well, there in your country are all kind of, and Heidi knows a lot of the mindfulness courses, the MBSR 8-week course. You can do them everywhere and also online. So in your own country, you will have access for that. MBSR 8-week program. And the Sleep Well meditation is one of the meditation in my book, Sitting Still Like a Frog. It's the child meditation. And in this book, there are 11 child meditations for children from 4 till 12. And a lot of adults like to do them themselves because they are easy to follow, easy to understand, and they are short. So even if you don't have any time in a day, you can do these meditations.
Thank you. And Dawn, let's hear your question. Dawn?
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the presentation very much. I was wondering about your thoughts on the increased exposure by kids and teens to social media, technology, screen time, and how that affects their mindfulness or ability to practice mindfulness. Would you speak on that for a little minute, and any recommendations you tell parents?
Yes, well, this is a very interesting and big subject. And I think this is very much about borders. So to start with your last part, it's very much about setting limits at a very early age to use screens, every screen. So it is of non-use to give children a screen when they are 1.5 years. And under 6, it is no use for children they don't learn from the screens. So, and after that, it has to be very much limited. So 20 minutes till half an hour a day is more than enough. And when kids are used to that, one of my grandchildren, they don't use screens because, and she is 10 now, and of course she's asking for it. And now when she's 10, she is allowed to use from 5 till 5:30 when the mother is making the meals to use one screen, and for the rest of the time it's out, no screens at home. So when we raise our children in that way, and it's difficult for a lot of parents because it's also a kind of easy sugar we give them. A screen, when you give a child a screen, it's like you give them an ice cream or sugar, a little cake with empty sugar. So they love it, of course, and to keep them calm and so that you can do your own thing, it's an easy way, but it infects and influences the way the right part of the brain and the left part of the brain are able to communicate. because the right part of the brain is very much reacting on pictures. And well, we all know that they are very fast changing, the pictures on YouTube and all that kind of thing. So one of the damages is when we have young kids and we let them easily use 2-3 hours a day the screen, that they will damage the connection with the right and the left brain. And this has everything to do with focus and lack of focus, and lack of contact with the body, and all kind of other things which are not very healthy.
Well, we're getting a lot of questions and comments, very positive reports of how the exercises in your book are being used by parents and teachers and even parents of 2-year-olds. And Eline, you suggested that you'll kind of end our program leading us in a meditation. That
Yes.
also can be useful. I do want to mention, because of the comments we're getting on some of these questions, we will send with the link to today's program, and you can watch this meditation or use it again, the one that's coming up, but also the link to Mindfulness Every Day, and you can learn about their programs. We'll also down on a link to Eline's website and for the app, Eline, that you mentioned,
Yeah.
so people will have those resources
Ah,
at
wonderful.
the end of today.
Yeah.
So Eline, before this all started, an hour and a half ago, you said you'd like to lead a meditation. So tell us about the meditation and then lead us, and then we'll come back for just a final minute to close this session.
Okay. Yes, I was thinking about to do a meditation together, and well, there are different possibilities. I first thought to do a meditation of the children with you, and it's called The Secret of the Heart Chamber. It's about compassion for the kids, and also for us, of course. And then I was also thinking about the meditation dealing with difficult feelings, because we all have difficult feelings these times and stressful feelings. So, and then I also thought, well, self-compassion is very, so I couldn't choose so very well. So at the end, I think I will choose for The Secret of the Heart Chamber. It's a meditation for kids, and it's also a meditation for all of us. So give me 1 second, and because I need, I'm not used to lead meditations in a different language than Dutch. So I search for it on my paper, and then I will lead a meditation. Okay?
Thank you. Yes.
Let me see. It's always the same. When you search for something, you cannot find it. So then we will just change it. Everything is changing all the time. So then I will lead you to the conveyor belt of worries. So whenever you as a parent worry, and I don't think there might be a lot of people who never worry. Is there anyone who never worries with you? No. I see no all the time. So so this conveyor belt of worries, in this meditation, we teach children and adults in this way that you cannot stop thinking, but you can stop listen to all the thoughts. So I will ring the bell, and then we can start with, you don't need to change the way you're sitting. You can just stay seated as you are. Are there times when you can't stop worrying, when your thoughts just keep tuning. Thoughts can be pretty difficult. They interfere in everything and they think they know everything. This exercise will teach you how to move out of your head into your body and to focus on a place where your thoughts can't reach. You can sit comfortably and let your shoulders hang down a little bit. Relax your face, your hands on your laps. And you can close or half close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you like to do. And maybe you can let your thoughts go a little bit around what happened today to you. Were there any things that gave you stress? Were there things that didn't work out at all or worried you? Maybe you can try for one moment to don't think at all, half a minute. And listen what your mind is producing now when you don't think at all. All kinds of thoughts will come up about today, about last week or tomorrow. So maybe you can look at all those thoughts passing by. Maybe you can look at them from a little distance. Observe all the thoughts. What are you thinking about right now? When you are completely silent, you can hear the stream of thoughts from the beginning to the end, like a kind of storyteller in your head. They appear, linger a while, and flow downstream again, like leaves in a river, until they are out of sight and they are replaced by entirely different thoughts. Maybe you can hear what a storyteller in your head is telling you. Is it about today? About something yesterday? Or tomorrow? About something you must not forget? You don't need to do everything your thoughts are telling you. Thoughts are just thoughts. They don't know everything. And if that head full of thoughts is wearing you down, you can lower your tension like a little spire on a thread from your head down to your belly. Slowly from your head to your chest and lower to your belly. And then, when you have your attention in your belly, you moved from your head down to your belly. You can put your hand on your belly and be in that place where your hands feel your belly. there far away from your head, right on your belly. That's where you feel the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. Can you feel it? Up a little and down a little, your belly goes. Up it goes and down again. Can you feel the gentle movement of your belly? The gentle movement of the breath. There's no need to do anything. There are no thoughts in your belly. Only the breath and silence. You can stay with the breath in your belly for a while. Feel it move up and down again. Can you feel it? The breath moves all by itself. Deep down in your belly, all is quiet. There are no worries. Deep down in your belly, it's peaceful. There are no arguments. Deep down in your belly is the breath, attention, and the breath. A powerful calm. No hurry.
Wow. Eline, thank you so much. This has been such a delight. I'd like to thank everyone here and thank Emily for being the producer with the mostest. I so look forward to 2 weeks from today, another Saturday. And we have our own little goodbye ritual. We open up our microphones of everyone who is here right now. And I want to thank you, but I want to give everyone else an opportunity for a quick thank you. It gets a little blurry because I'm sure there are a lot of thank yous. So thank everyone. Your microphones are open. You can say your goodbyes to Eline and to everyone else, and have a wonderful Saturday.